Hello, come with me to see the Master of Hats Stephen Jones exhibition in Paris. But first, a very short train journey. And here we are already in Paris, just outside the Metro Jena. And this is the outside of the Musée Guimet, which is Asian art and artifacts. They're doing a big exhibition on China, but sadly, I'm not going to have time for that today. This isn't the shortest way into the museum, but I wanted to walk past the gardens, which were sadly not open today. But you do get a glimpse of the Eiffel Tower from almost anywhere in this neighborhood, so that's worth seeing. And this is the simple and elegant formal garden, but apparently the grass is resting for winter, or at least this week. So it's just a short walk up this little side street and then up to a left at the top, and you find yourself out on the main street and right by the entrance of the museum. Here we are, it's not busy, so let's go in. And as you can see, the courtyard is worth a visit. There are these beautiful pale stone columns set in a curving arcade, and you get a view out into the garden as well. This is a little view onto the front of the building that we glimpsed by looking through the railings in the park. And the Stephen Jones hat exhibition starts right here. The outfit on the left was designed by Stephen Jones at a very young age. I think it was actually his final piece for his graduation at St Martin's in London. And then to the right, these quite spectacular planets headpieces. The vibe of the exhibition is very British in that way that there's a combination of things that are traditional and nostalgic with something that's really, really contemporary. In the first room, we are in the very early 80s in the Blitz Club and the sort of surrealist punk, new romantic vibe that was so particular at that time. If anyone's really interested in knowing more, there are a couple of documentaries about it. This one is from 2005 and can be found on Vimeo. And there's a newer one which I've seen, and that's on Netflix, and it's called Blitzed, and I recommend it. There's some really obvious, almost caricatural, but extremely fun references to British culture in this early work. And the specific camp madness of clubbing in the 80s. On one wall, we've got a collection of invitations to various shows that Stephen Jones has done, either as an independent creator or as working for a fashion designer. I love this flimsy and delicate hat made of the pages of a poetry book, and in this case, it's the poetry of Robert Burns, the national poet of Scotland. There are a lot of top hats here, usually redimensioned ones, so smaller ones that kind of perch on the head. And it makes me think about how it's event where it's some kind of elevated form, literally elevated form of headwear. And yet it's also got that association through the Mad Hatter with eccentricity. As we go through the exhibition, we start leaving the British influence and see how Stephen Jones' work was influenced by working in France. And we have this kind of cap with a branch of red coral on it, and this little puff with a cigarette in it, and these sort of small, elegant beret type hats. There's a wall of photos of the man himself, and here's just a selection of three. The lighting's not brilliant here, but there's a Napoleonic hat softened by this beautiful pale pink rose. His versatility is genuinely amazing. In this cabinet are works that he did with Schiaparelli, and Schiaparelli are famous for a very surrealist style and produced a shoe hat as early as the 1940s. The hats displayed here all demonstrate the French influence, whether that be Napoleonic or associated with a genre of painting like Rococo seen in the last hat here. Like the Blitz Club in London, Stephen Jones also takes an interest in Parisian nightlife, and many of these pieces were inspired by clubs and gay bars and Paris by night. What I loved was this unique blend of whimsy, eccentricity, daring, and yet elegance. The gold embroidered insignia on this small straw hat is incredible, and I really love the way that he's substituted the traditional British lion and unicorn with an owl and a rabbit, which I'm sure has some internal significance for him. And I love the idea that he's maybe speaking to himself in a code that we can only partly read. In this section, there's an opportunity to hear Stephen Jones speaking about his work and also to focus in on the craft. Apart from the one with the gold embroidery, I think I spent the most time looking at this hat. I think because it reminds me of my mom, and she was a sewer, and these spools of thread. It's so elegant the way that the thread curls round over the needle stuck in it at the back, and it's just so perfectly placed. I don't know how you could wear it, but that doesn't matter. It needs to exist, this hat. In the next section, we get to see how his work combines with that of different fashion designers that he's worked with. In this case, it's Jean-Paul Gaultier. There you see him having a chat with him. And we also see these fezzes that were created in the early to mid 1980s, I believe. And Jean-Paul Gaultier was really one of the first French designers who openly introduced these multicultural elements into his work, which was a better reflection of modern France. Here are a couple of examples of his collaboration with John Galliano when he was working for Givenchy. Some more pure essence Jean Galliano here. And a really interesting little capsule of black and gold work done for Schiaparelli, and I was kind of disturbed by how realistic the face of the mannequin was. another section of Galliano. I was particularly fascinated by the black leather piece and the just incredible amount of work and fine detail that must have gone into this 16th century inspired outfit. I'm always happy to see anything by Iris van Elpen, and I went to an exhibition of hers in Paris last year, and I might upload a
And the
video
last
of
two
that.
pieces you see just before you go out are these two by Tom Brown. And this one is really giving Donnie Darko in tweed vibes.
On the way out, I turned round and noticed this burst of light right at the top of the Eiffel Tower, and I just decided to film it for a little while. Every time I turned to go, I would feel this flash of light behind me, and then I would turn back and notice that the sun was getting brighter and stronger until it sort of cinematically looks like the sun is just bursting through the clouds precisely at the top of the Eiffel Tower and signaling something that unfortunately I was not able to understand.